It all began on a quiet, unassuming day in 1952, in the seaside town of Southend-on-Sea, England. A young boy named Bill Ramsey, just 9 years old at the time, was playing in his garden. The scent of salt hung in the air, and the hum of a typical afternoon surrounded him, until something inside him shifted. Something dark. Something primal. Without warning, Bill was overcome by a chilling cold that swept through his body. His breathing became ragged. A sickening stench filled his nostrils. And then, like a switch being flipped, he felt an overwhelming rage, a compulsion to destroy. His small hands clenched into claws. And in that terrifying moment, Bill Ramsey believed he was no longer human. He believed he had become a wolf. He tore free from the fence post he had been holding, uprooting it entirely with strength no child should possess. He sank his teeth into the wire mesh, snarling like a wild beast. His parents stood frozen, terrified of the boy who now seemed like a creature from folklore. But just as quickly as it began, it ended. Bill returned to his normal self, confused and unaware of what had just occurred. His parents chalked it up to a strange childhood episode. Perhaps stress. Or imagination. They never spoke of it again. But the darkness hadn't left. Years passed. Bill grew into adulthood, got married, and started a family. He worked as a mild-mannered carpenter, known for being quiet, gentle, and dependable. Life seemed normal, until the late 1960s. Bill began to suffer from crippling nightmares, visions of himself as a wolf, roaming through the streets, teeth dripping with blood. He'd wake up in cold sweats, drenched in fear. But there were no more episodes. Not yet. Then, in the mid-1980s, the beast returned. One night, while out with friends at a pub, Bill was suddenly seized by that same icy grip he had felt as a boy. Without provocation, he launched into a violent frenzy, growling, clawing, and even biting. Police were called. And when they tried to restrain him, Bill fought them off with inhuman strength. Witnesses claimed he had the power of 5 men. It took multiple officers and handcuffs to subdue him, but even then, he was uncontrollable, snarling, foaming at the mouth, and baring his teeth like a feral animal. The police had no explanation. Doctors were baffled. Psychiatrists offered diagnoses ranging from schizophrenia to hysteria. But nothing ever stuck. And the attacks continued. By 1987, Bill Ramsey had become a local mystery, and a dangerous one at that. His episodes became increasingly violent. During one terrifying incident at a hospital, he attacked a nurse, tossing her aside like a rag doll. He broke free of his restraints, leapt through the ward, and even tried to bite another officer's face. People were scared. Some whispered about demonic possession. Others believed it to be a severe mental illness. But no treatment seemed to work. And that's when the case took a chilling turn, when it caught the attention of 2 very familiar names. Ed and Lorraine Warren. The Warrens, the world-renowned demonologists and paranormal investigators, had been lecturing in London when they heard about Bill Ramsey's bizarre case. Ed immediately sensed that this wasn't just a psychological breakdown, it had all the markings of something darker, something inhuman. They arranged to meet with Bill. What they saw disturbed them deeply. Here was a man who appeared normal, rational, and soft-spoken. But just beneath the surface, they sensed an entity, coiled and waiting. Lorraine, a clairvoyant and light trance medium, later claimed that she could feel a predatory force lurking within Bill, one that wasn't of this world. The Warrens believed that Bill Ramsey was suffering from demonic possession, specifically a werewolf-type entity, which they described as an extremely rare but dangerous case of transformation possession, where the victim takes on characteristics of an animal, even physically, during episodes. They offered to bring Bill to the United States for an exorcism, performed by Bishop Robert McKenna, a traditional Roman Catholic exorcist with whom they had worked in previous cases. Bill, desperate for help, agreed. The exorcism took place in Connecticut, in a private chapel, in 1989. The atmosphere was heavy. Witnesses described an unnatural stillness, as if the very air was watching. Ed stood near Bill with his camera, documenting every moment. Lorraine sat quietly, praying. As the bishop began the ritual, Bill's demeanor shifted. His hands curled like claws. His breathing deepened into growls. His face twisted into something bestial. He fought the holy water. He tried to break free. His strength surged. He lunged at the priest. And then, a howl escaped his throat, deep, long, and animalistic. But Bishop McKenna continued. He invoked the name of Christ. He commanded the entity to leave. He called upon divine power to sever the beast from the man. For over an hour, the battle raged. Until suddenly, Bill collapsed. He wept. He whispered. He said he felt free. From that moment on, Bill Ramsey never had another episode. The nightmares stopped. The blackouts ended. The beast, whatever it was gone. He returned to his life in England, grateful, though shaken by what he had endured. He never sought publicity. In fact, Bill avoided the spotlight as much as possible. But the Warrens documented the entire case, including video footage, and later spoke about it in interviews and lectures. For Ed and Lorraine, the Southend Werewolf case stood as one of the most disturbing examples of non-human possession they had ever encountered. Not only because of the physical transformation, but because of how long it had haunted the victim, nearly 4 decades. To this day, skeptics argue that Bill Ramsey suffered from an undiagnosed psychological disorder. Others believe it was a hoax, or a case of extreme hysteria. But those who witnessed the transformation, the nurses, the police officers, the Warrens themselves, remain convinced that something far more sinister was at play. And for those who believe in the darkness, in curses, in creatures that hide within human skin, the Southend Werewolf is not a legend. It's a warning. Because evil doesn't always come with horns and fire. Sometimes, it wears a familiar face. And sometimes, it howls.